Well, joining us now is Transport Secretary Grant Shapps. It all falls on him. Why are we so underprepared?
Well, we've never seen temperatures like this, like literally ever. This will probably be the hottest day in history. And a lot of our infrastructure is just not built for these types of temperatures. So on the railways, for example, and I've tested this and queried it very hard, but it's not just the 40-degree temperatures we might hit outside. On the ground, those rails can be heating up to 50, 60 and hotter, and that means they're in serious danger of buckling. So you end up having to run the trains slower over them, and that, of course, causes disruption as well. But gradually, we're having to upgrade all the infrastructure, including the overhead lines, which are gradually being replaced with the types which won't sag even in extreme temperatures, but that's a whole new thing the country needs to get used to.
Bob Ward, who's Head of Policy and Communications at the London School of Economics, says there's no excuse. He said, we've been reporting on this heat wave, and we knew it was coming, and we should have done more about it.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly knew it's coming for the last few days. Obviously, we've been seeing it in the papers. This is infrastructure.
Global warming.
Yeah, I was going to say this infrastructure are things which take decades to build and replace. 3 years ago, when I became Transport Secretary, quite literally one of the first conversations I had with the Chief Executive of Network Rail, Andrew Haynes, was about these overhead lines on the railways which tend to sag in heat. And he talked me through the new upgraded specifications which are going onto the railway lines, where they can withstand much higher levels of temperature. And we're going to see this a lot more regularly. We know that. We've seen many of the hottest days ever recorded have come in the last 10 to 15 years. So we're going to see this more. It's a huge infrastructure to replace. And
how long is it going to take?
Decades, actually, to replace it all.
So we're going to have this sort of problem for decades to come?
We are. And, you know, ditto with things like tarmac on the roads, and obviously there are thousands, in fact millions of miles of roads in total. So there's a long process of replacing and upgrading it to withstand temperatures either very hot or sometimes actually much colder than we'd be used to, and these are the impacts of global warming.
Is there a COBRA meeting today?
No, there's a cabinet this morning instead, I think. I'm not aware whether there's a specific COBRA meeting. Today should be the end of the extreme
Hottest day of the year,
heat.
though, isn't it? Hottest day ever.
Yeah, but there have been COBRA meetings throughout, including official ones.
Why did the Prime Minister not go?
Well, the Prime Minister chairs cabinet, which is the sort of the ultimate body, as it were. COBRA sits under that. A lot of times people misunderstand how COBRA, which stands for Committee, Cabinet Office Briefing Room, is the name of COBRA. It is literally that. It's a Cabinet Office briefing. Cabinet sits on top of that, so it's more important, if you like. And I know the PM has been keeping in touch with it. He was on the phone to me over the weekend about it, and we spoke about several aspects.
So he just
transport.
dials it in then?
Well, yeah, COBRA is actually chaired officially by somebody called the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, which is a cabinet colleague called Kit Malthouse.
Yeah, we had him on yesterday.
And Kit's job is to look after the Civil Contingencies Secretariat.
Sometimes chair COBRA then?
Yeah, it depends what the issue is. So, for example, when Ukraine
Literally, when the country's melting, is that not a big enough issue for
Well, it's not a big enough issue, but Cabinet is a bigger, if you like, a bigger platform for a Prime Minister than COBRA, which is a subcommittee.
It was last Tuesday?
Sure.
Yes.
But as you say, we know it's been coming for a long time.
So he's complacent about it?
No, I just don't... I know where you're going with this. I just don't...
I'm saying that the Prime Minister should be in charge.
The Prime Minister is in charge. And I just don't agree. And it's a mischaracterisation of the way that these things operate. People think because it has Cabinet Office briefing room ahead of it, it somehow is more important than, for example, Cabinet, where we held a Cabinet last week. There's a Cabinet this morning who's in touch with all his ministers about it. And as I was mentioning, the Chancellor of the... Let me just complete this point. There is something called... Hold on 1 second. There's something called the Civil Contingencies Secretariat. So that's the organisation within the Cabinet Office that looks after civil emergencies. This kind of overheating, for example. There is a minister in the Cabinet... Well, I think it's absolutely is an emergency.
OK, just so we're clear.
There is a Cabinet Minister called the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, is an old-fashioned name for it, whose job it literally is to do this stuff and look after it. And he's been doing that very admirably. As you say, you had him on yesterday morning.
Yeah, and you don't feel that the Prime Minister should be leading from the front when it's a civil emergency?
So he has been. He's been being briefed.
He hasn't. He's been partying at flipping checkers.
Again, you know, I know you love this media narrative on it. It's just like literally...
That's it. Bash the media. That's what we should do.
No. It's just a sort of...
He needs to be seen to be leading from the front, and he's not because he's checked out.
No, it's literally not true. In fact, exactly the opposite is the truth.
What was he doing flying typhoons?
One second. Is literally the opposite is the truth. In fact, he's been interested in and involved in the detail of, for example, ensuring that...
What's he doing this for?
Because in the end, he has responsibility for Britain's
He's leaving
security.
in 6 weeks.
So he still has responsibility.
Why didn't he do it
for
2
Britain's
years
security.
ago?
I'm sure he's been up in RAF aircraft before. He's leading Britain's security at a time of war, and you're telling me the Prime Minister shouldn't be involved?
He's leaving in 6 weeks. He does not need to do a Maverick-style photo shoot like that.
Look, that's your view. I don't
think it's
agree
only
with
my
you.
view.
I don't agree with you because, in the end, the Prime Minister is in charge of this country's security. There is a war going on in Europe. Why on earth would he not go and meet with the RAF on
because we've got a civil emergency with the heat rising higher than it's ever been before.
It's quite possible to do two things at once, Kay.
Obviously not. Reports that Rishi Sunak spoke to Liz Truss after this Channel 4 debate on Friday and said, why are we doing this? This isn't working. What was he talking about? I'm
not privy to the specific conversation, but I do think that there's already been two debates, public debates, as well as many different hustings for the actual electorate at this point, which are the Conservative MPs. And I think they took the decision collectively as candidates to say, actually, they wanted to focus on this stage, which is in the House. I'm sure when it goes out to the last two, there'll be opportunity for more debates, and no doubt Rishi and others will join that debate.
Well, we haven't heard their views on things like housing, when they've gone up against each other, or health, or even really what's going to happen as far as strike action is concerned. So let me put it to you, given that you're representing Rishi Sunak this morning, what's he going to do about sorting out the housing crisis?
Well, I'm sure he'll have very comprehensive plans for housing. He'll be outlining them in the later stages of the conversation.
Could have done them this afternoon, this evening, couldn't he?
I know that you would have loved to have had them on your programme, of course.
Well, I think my viewers should have the opportunity
to hear
what they say.
Some of your viewers may have caught them both on ITV and Channel 4 previously.
They have their own questions that they wanted to put to the whoever would be, if I may finish, who would be the next Prime Minister. 0.3% of the electorate will decide who the next Prime Minister is. My viewers surely have, unless they're Tory members, have a right to put questions to whoever would want to be the next Prime Minister.
Of course, and there's still...
But they've been told they can't.
Well, hold on a second. There's still, 7 weeks to go until the Prime Minister's selected. There's plenty of opportunity to do that.
Only from the final two.
That's right, from the final two.
What about the others?
Well, this way you get to... At this stage, it's only MPs, as you've mentioned, who get to narrow it down, whittle it down to the final two. When it's in the final two, anyone who's a party member, everyone's welcome to join at conservatives.com.
You've lost a few members, haven't you?
Can sign up. Although, actually, I should mention, just for...
You can't vote.
You can't vote if you join right now.
Yes,
but normally you can join. There's more members now than when, for example, I was party chairman under David Cameron. So
yes,
membership's gone up.
0.3% of the electorate, not the population.
Of course.
What about health? How will you tackle the crisis in the NHS?
Just to finish.
That was another topic that wasn't discovered.
Point.
Well, let me just ask you that one, because it was another question that was put by one of our viewers who can no longer ask the would-be Prime Minister. How will you tackle, this was a question, how will you tackle the crisis in the NHS, a lack of access to GPs, especially face-to-face, hospital waits, ambulance waits, and how will you fund your plan?
Yeah, I mean, and these are all questions that your viewers will be able to put, I'm sure, to the final two, because I'm sure that Rishi and whoever the other candidate is, if it is those two, will be able to, will be happy to submit themselves to debate. So it's not that people won't get the opportunity to do this.
Just to clarify then, is Rishi Sunak saying that he will do a head-to-head debate with Liz Truss or Penny Mordaunt on Sky? Well, first, I
was going to say, first of all, to take nothing for granted, Rishi has to get through to the final. I've no doubt at all that there'll be further public TV debates, and at that point, I'm sure he'd be happy to do it.
So will he appear on Sky News as a head-to-head debate?
I can't commit Rishi's time to Sky News specifically, but I am certain...
But you're saying that there will be an opportunity for my viewers to put questions to your candidate.
I'm now unclear whether this conversation's about whether he specifically comes on and the candidates come on Sky News or just on TV debates.
No.
Because they have done 2 TV debates.
And as I said, surely, are you saying that the Sky News viewers who are watching this morning are less valued?
No, I'm simply saying they've already done... I realise he hasn't come, and the other candidates haven't come on your programme, but it is the case that I'm sure they'll be delighted to go on TV.
Will they get an opportunity to...
I'm sure, yeah.
On Sky News?
I don't know whether it will be on Sky. Okay, you and the other broadcasters and the candidates will have to sort that out.
They were running Sky,
but on television.
I don't know. Yeah. So let's go back to that health question then, given that they might not be able to ask the question. The lady that posed the question, works in the health service, and she'd like to tackle the crisis in the NHS. She wants to know how you're going to do it. Lack of access to GPs, especially face-to-face, hospital waits, ambulance waits, and how will you fund your plans?
Well, first of all, we put in record funding. In fact, Rishi was responsible as Chancellor for doing that. Due to coronavirus, we've had these huge backlogs. They're starting to get on top of them. I was looking last night at the figures, for example, for waits for operations at the upper end, and those have been starting to come down. It's really important that we make sure that the GPs are able to, people are able to access their GPs, which is something of great concern. And I think things like, I think things like some of the new technology which has been used during coronavirus can really help. So before coronavirus, a very small percentage of patients had the NHS app. Now people have downloaded that a lot more. They're able to access and book appointments. 14
million people waiting for an appointment probably by the end. But by the end of this session, by the time of the next election, if it is by 2024, is that not a priority?
Well, so a massive priority. Right now, the waiting lists are not at the 14 million level.
But they could be.
That's a prediction. That's one of the reasons why Rishi, as Chancellor, has brought in the health and social care levy. Now, that was controversial, of course, as you know, because it involved raising national insurance in order to pay for reducing, amongst other things, reducing the waiting list. So when your listener asks what's going to happen, action has been taken in order to raise the money, in order to reduce the lists, which have grown because of coronavirus, as we all know. So I think
I've got loads more questions, but we're out of time. So frustrating.
Record on
nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Much appreciated.